Have you ever stood at the crossroads of shame and hope, wondering if your past will forever define your future? Have you ever yearned for a love so pure that it washes away every regret, every hidden tear, every broken promise? What if, on an ordinary day, amidst your routine tasks, you found yourself face to face with the one who knew you completely and yet loved you unconditionally? The sun blazed mercilessly over the rugged hills of Samaria. It was midday, a time when sensible travelers sought refuge under shaded awnings, yet a lone figure moved steadily along the dusty road. His sandals kicked up small clouds of dust as he approached the ancient town of Sychar, weary but determined. This was no ordinary traveler. It was Jesus of Nazareth, the teacher, the miracle worker. Yet today he journeyed with a purpose known only to heaven. Stay tuned as we uncover the incredible story of Fotini, the woman at the well, a story of thirst, grace, and transformation. If you love expository Bible stories that will encourage your faith and reveal the unfailing love of God that can erase your past errors, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. Samaria, a land of ancient bitterness and long-forgotten promises. Centuries before, this had been the heartland of the northern tribes of Israel. But after the Assyrian conquest, foreign settlers mixed with the Israelites, birthing the Samaritans, a people despised by the Jews, seen as impure and heretical. Yet the Samaritans clung stubbornly to their version of the Torah and worshipped on Mount Gerizim, not in Jerusalem. Jesus could have taken the longer, more accepted route around Samaria, but that day he had to pass through it. Destiny was unfolding. At the outskirts of Sychar stood Jacob's well, a relic of a patriarch's love dug centuries ago. It was deep and fed by living springs, a symbol of heritage and survival. How many generations had drawn from its cool depths? How many secrets had its waters heard? Jesus, exhausted from his journey, sat beside the well, his face bathed in the harsh noonday light. His disciples had gone into the city to buy food, leaving him alone. Yet in divine orchestration, it was not solitude he awaited, but a soul. She approached, her feet moving hesitantly across the dry earth. Her eyes scanned the horizon, wary of watchful faces and whispered judgments. It was not the custom for women to fetch water at noon, the hour of heat and solitude. But she was no ordinary woman. She was the outcast, the scandal of Sychar. 5 times married and now living with a man not her husband. Her life was a tapestry of shattered hopes and whispered scandals. To the women of the town, she was a lesson in failure. To the men, a fleeting amusement turned regret. She carried her clay jar on her shoulder, yet the heavier burden was unseen, her guilt, her loneliness. As she neared the well, she saw him, a Jewish man. She braced herself for the typical disdain, the turned face, the silence, but instead, his eyes met hers with neither condemnation nor desire. Just compassion. "Give me a drink," he asked gently, his voice soft but carrying a weight that stirred her soul. Her eyes narrowed in confusion. "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" In that simple question lay centuries of division, prejudice, and pain. Jews did not share utensils with Samaritans. They barely acknowledged their existence. Yet this man not only spoke to her, he asked for a drink from her vessel. Jesus smiled, a knowing smile. "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him and he would have given you living water." She blinked. Living water. Was this a riddle or a promise? "Sir," she replied, the sarcasm barely masking her curiosity, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well?" Jesus leaned forward slightly, His next words would pierce the veil of her cynicism. "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water I shall give will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." A silence fell. For the first time in years, hope flickered in her weary heart. She tried to laugh it off. "Sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Jesus' eyes held hers firmly. "Go, call your husband, and come here." The words hung in the air like a sword poised to strike. Her breath caught. How did he know? "I have no husband," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have well said," Jesus continued, his tone gentle, not accusing. "For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. In that you spoke truly." Her soul felt exposed, yet strangely safe. This stranger knew her darkest secrets, but did not recoil or accuse. Desperate to deflect the conversation from her sin, she switched to theology, the safe debate of centuries. "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place to worship." Jesus' answer would echo through eternity. "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such to worship him." She felt her heart pound. These were words unlike any she had heard from priests or rabbis. Could it be? "I know that Messiah is coming," she said slowly. "He who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." And then, in the most stunning revelation ever uttered to human ears, Jesus declared, "I who speak to you am he." Time seemed to stand still. The Messiah was here, and he had come for her. Just as the magnitude of his words settled in her spirit, the disciples returned. Their eyes widened, not just at the sight of their master speaking to a woman, unheard of for a Jewish rabbi, but a Samaritan woman. Though their tongues held back their questions, their faces betrayed their confusion. Peter clenched his fists, ever the protector. Andrew exchanged uneasy glances with John, yet Jesus sat calmly, his countenance radiant with the satisfaction of a divine appointment fulfilled. The woman, sensing the moment, left her water jar behind, a symbolic abandonment of her old burdens. She ran back toward the city, her feet moving faster than they ever had. For the first time in years, she had something worth running toward, hope. She burst into the marketplace, her hair undone, her eyes ablaze with urgency. The very people who had mocked her now became her audience. "Come, see a man who told me all things that I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" At first, there was silence, followed by murmurs. Curiosity grew. The woman who once avoided their company was now bold and fearless. Something had changed. One by one, they followed her toward the well. Back at the well, the disciples urged Jesus to eat, but he refused. "I have food to eat of which you do not know," he said. Puzzled, they wondered who had brought him food. But Jesus, always teaching deeper truths, declared, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look at the fields, for they are already white for harvest." And as they looked up, they saw the townspeople approaching in droves. The harvest was not grain, it was souls. The townspeople gathered around Jesus, eyes wide with wonder. He spoke to them for hours, answering questions, revealing the mysteries of God's kingdom. Many believed instantly because of the woman's testimony, but others were captivated by his words. They begged him to stay, and he did, for 2 full days. In those days, the walls of prejudice crumbled. The long-standing hatred between Jew and Samaritan dissolved under the grace that flowed like living water. While Jesus taught, the woman sat quietly among the crowd, her mind returning to the broken pieces of her life. Her first husband had died young, a tragic accident at the olive press. Desperate and alone, she married again, but her second husband was a cruel man who treated her like a possession. When he divorced her under flimsy pretexts, she was left destitute. Each subsequent marriage was an attempt to survive in a world where women had little value apart from a man's protection. Her current arrangement was not love, it was survival. Yet in one conversation, Jesus had freed her from all that shame. During these days, the disciples wrestled with their own prejudices. How could the Messiah spend so much time with these Samaritans? But as they watched lives transformed, pride melted into humility. They saw what Jesus had seen, hearts longing for redemption, regardless of heritage. The woman, now known by her name once more, Fotini, meaning the enlightened one in later traditions, became a relentless voice of the Messiah's mercy. She traveled beyond Sychar, speaking to villages across Samaria. Wherever she went, she carried the story of the man who knew her entirely and loved her still. Not everyone welcomed her message. Religious leaders in Samaria, tied to the rigid laws of Mount Gerizim, challenged her. "Who are you, a woman with a stained past, to preach about the Messiah?" They sneered, but Fotini stood firm. "If he could change me, he can change anyone." Years later, long after Jesus' resurrection, Fotini journeyed to Jerusalem, hoping to meet the apostles. There she found Peter and John, who embraced her as a sister in the faith. She learned how Jesus had gone to the cross, risen from the grave, and ascended to the Father. Her heart swelled with joy, for the man who changed her life had indeed changed the world. Her story didn't end in obscurity. Historical traditions suggest that Fotini eventually traveled to Carthage and even Rome, boldly preaching the gospel before Emperor Nero himself. When threatened with death, she declared, "Christ is my life, and death is my gain." She became a martyr, her life sealed with the testimony she once proclaimed at Jacob's well. The story of Fotini teaches that no one is too far gone for grace. Her water jar left behind at the well became a symbol of forsaking old burdens for new life. Her courage shows us that a single encounter with Jesus can redefine a lifetime of failure. The well remains to this day, a silent witness to the moment eternity touched earth. And from that moment, the living water has flowed through countless generations, quenching the deepest thirsts of the human heart. Jesus' words at the well echoed through history. "The water I give will become in you a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." Those words still call to the weary and the broken. While the gospel records this encounter briefly, the ripple effects were vast. Entire Samaritan communities opened their hearts to the gospel years before Philip the Evangelist would revisit Samaria in Acts 8. That revival began with one woman's testimony. When persecution scattered the early church, many believers fled to Samaria. They found a land already softened by the seeds Jesus had sown through Fotini. The harvest continued, and Samaria became a hub of early Christian faith. Perhaps today you stand by your own well, burdened by shame, regret, or loneliness. Hear again the words of Jesus. If you knew the gift of God, that gift is still available. He still waits by the well sides of life, ready to offer living water. Life lessons from the woman at the well no past. Is too dark for God's light. Fotini's story proves that grace reaches into the deepest pits of shame. God breaks cultural and social barriers. Jesus' encounter broke the walls of prejudice. True love and grace see beyond race, gender, and history. One testimony can ignite a revival. Never underestimate the power of sharing your story. Fotini's testimony changed a city. Living water is still available. Jesus didn't just offer living water to her, he offers it to you today. A life filled with joy, purpose and eternal satisfaction, and so the well still stands. Its waters deep, but its message deeper still. Come, drink, and never thirst again. Before you go, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever found yourself running from your past, only to realize that true freedom comes when you face it head-on? If Jesus was sitting by your well today, what burdens would you leave behind? Are you still drawing from wells that leave you empty, when the living water is freely offered? Who in your life needs to hear your story of transformation, just like the woman at the well shared hers? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your answers in the comments below. Your story might just inspire someone else to find their own freedom. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss an inspiring story like this one. And remember, sharing is caring. Send this video to someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late for a new beginning. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay blessed and keep drawing from the well that never runs dry.